I have come as you have bid, my master.
You've done well thus far, Atratzu. You've reviewed many different kinds of games. You've reviewed nostalgic and new games alike. And now the time is right. It's time for you to return. Return to the Dark Forces. Review Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2.
Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 is a first-person shooter developed by LucasArts and released in the late fall of 1997. Dark Forces 2 is a sequel to its predecessor Dark Forces 1, an id Software's 1993 Doom clone. I've actually made a review for Dark Forces, if you didn't catch that from the intro, that is. I'd highly encourage you to check it out if you haven't. You play as our old pal Kyle Katarn, the same Kyle from the first game, only you'll notice something's different. Something's different about the whole game.
Holy crap! All of the cutscenes in this game are live action.
Kyle looks way better than he did in the first game. These cutscenes are a thing of pure beauty. They'll either sell you on the game story immediately or take you out of it. Obviously, my slant is that I love them. I'm not going to go through all of the actors' names, but the actor and face of Kyle Katarn is Jason Court. Many of these cutscenes seem to be in keeping with the original spirit of the first ever Star Wars movie. So there's an even stronger nostalgia hiding beneath the surface when playing these games. And of course, we've reached a point in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, Star Wars Legends, where I was familiar with the ships, the style, the art, the graphics. I never played Star Wars Dark Forces as a kid, but this game was so clearly LucasArts' 90s game style that it just wells up all the feels from deep within. Sorry, getting a bit derailed here. I'll stop being so mushy. So Star Wars Dark Forces 2 starts out exactly where it should in every Star Wars movie, in outer space, right after the credits crawl. This much is just tradition, people. We see a Star Destroyer doing its thing, blowing up poor tiny little rebel ships. Yup, this feels right. And so you have some guy being interrogated by the Dark Jedi Jarek, who has no sense of personal space and looks like he has chocolate syrup on his face.
Is this funny?
Then they start off strong with some lightsaber choreography, but abruptly ends when the video special effects intern decides to kill him off. Oh no, I'm dead. Here we join Kyle on Nar Shaddaa, the smuggler's moon. Kyle is trying to track down his father's murderer when suddenly the droid designated 8T88 turns on Kyle in an attempt to get Kyle to decipher a disc. Kyle feigns ignorance, 8T88 walks out and commands the bounty hunters to finish Kyle off, and a good old-fashioned fight breaks out. Kyle leans forward into the light in a, what I'm supposed to find intimidating or inspiring kind of way, and I can't help but find it cute. Just look at those sparkling little brown eyes of his. Oh! And that's when the game starts. It turns out Jarek is looking for a place called the Valley of the Jedi. Kyle Katarn goes home to decipher the disc, and then goes to find the Valley of the Jedi too. Now let's move on to controls. Do you remember the days when key bindings weren't almost universally configured to the same settings? Yeah, well, Dark Forces 2 didn't get that memo. I think they were confused about what type of game they were making, or it was made for a controller or something, because the key bindings make zero sense to me. To put it another way, when I say the keys, tell me what it does. W, forward, space, jump, E, interact, left click, fire, right click, zoom.
Gosh, oh golly, oh gee, you guys are sure smart. And how does Dark Forces 2 bind them?
Spacebar is your interact key, right click is to jump. What?
I'm not making this up. I wouldn't have believed myself had I told myself I ever would have used my right mouse click for jumping in a first-person shooter. What possible reason could they give for binding jump to right click? Well, I do actually have good news. The game came out when rebinding keys was available, so thank goodness for small miracles. However, I was scared to rebind my keys. If you don't know my history, I once rebound my World of Warcraft account from WASD to ESDF. Yes, E to go forward, F to go right, S to go left. For anyone who doesn't understand why I do something like that, I was so heavy into PvP arenas, and I wanted to use my Q, W, A, Z, and X keys for key bindings. By placing my hand more central, I could hit more keys quickly. It's about the most hardcore I ever got with the game. And when I tell someone that I played piano keyboard in World of Warcraft, I mean it. People would gather from all around to watch my lightning fingers. And this is getting a bit creepy, so let's get back on topic. So I jacked up my key bindings on WoW and then rebound all my keys for all the rest of my games. Playing new games took forever because I had to rebind all of the key bindings. And when you rebind keys, normally you miss a key or two, and suddenly you can't open doors because you forgot to bind your interact key. So I don't want to rebind my keys unless absolutely necessary. So let's reverse engineer why the right click is jump. The spacebar is to interact. If I could rebind E to interact, I could have spacebar as jump. What is E? It was force power toggle up 1. What does that mean? I don't freaking know. Would I need it later on? I don't know. So I went through this whole game rewiring my brain so I could press my second mouse button to jump. Long story short, I suggest you rebind your keys. I didn't use force powers until the end of the game. There are plenty of other keys you can substitute for the toggle. One final comment about the crazy key bindings. Imagine after playing Dark Forces 2 hard for a weekend, just imagine what happened when I went back to normal keyboard controls. A minor note here before we continue on. I did reverse the Y-axis before playing because it started inverted by default, and the sensitivity was abhorrently sensitive. I run my mouse sensitive already. Double that with the game sensitivity, and, well, you get the idea. So what's new in Dark Forces 2? Well, as I've already said, Kyle Katarn is now a Jedi, or at least progressively through the game he learns Force techniques. And there is a slight light or dark side choice available in the game. Dark Forces 2 is no KOTOR, but this was a really cool detail added to the game, and I have no doubt it was an inspiration for the moral ethical system brought to us in KOTOR 1 and 2. Basically, Kyle starts to go to the dark side if he recklessly kills non-hostile NPCs or civilians. This itself isn't enough to normally tip the scales. If you choose light or dark side force powers, you'll pretty much solidify your choice among the light or dark side path. And this path will affect the ending. There is different sets of cutscenes for the final quarter of the game, but the gameplay is virtually the same between the light and dark side endings. Only difference is the lightsaber changes color. I'm not going to spoil how or why that happens, though. There are 3 kinds of force powers: neutral, light, and dark. Kyle starts out without knowing any force powers and with having no force points. Eventually, Katarn begins to learn about the Force, and then you get Force points at the end of a level. Normally, I would get 2 Force points, but supposedly you can get 3 Force points if you find all the secrets. But that sounds like way too much work for a game that won't give me a meaningless reward for completing them.
Fine. I'm a hypocrite. You caught me. The whole reason on why I feel guilty is because I was talking to my brother and he was like, "Man, how would a completionist beat this game?" And yes, true, you're right. A completionist would still get all the secrets even though there's no real gain from that whatsoever. It's just, I need a badge. I need a Steam achievement. I need a badge that says, "Hey, look at you. You don't have any life. Yay!" There's just no way for me to show to anybody that I've actually done all these things if I've done it. Well, we're being a little bit meta now, aren't we?
Neutral force powers are Force Speed, which lets you run faster, Force Jump, which lets you leap higher. The longer you charge it, the higher you jump. Force Pull, a worthless vacuum cleaner move I never used once in my playthrough. Force Seeing, which will show you where enemies are on your HUD map. You can bring this up with your tab key, and it just makes stuff easier to see in general. The light side Force powers are Force Healing, Force Persuasion, Force Blinding, Force Absorb, and Force Protection. The dark side Force powers are Force Throw, Force Grip, Force Lightning, Force Destruction, and Force Deadly Sight. I wasn't forced to use light or dark side Force powers until the final boss fight. Then I used the toggle to use Force Protection. And that's about it. However, the neutral Force powers are extremely useful in finding secret areas and platforming. They're also bound to the F keys, so they're far more accessible, readily available, and easier to use. We haven't even talked about the user interface yet. When I jumped into the game, I had already completed Dark Forces 1, so I was familiar with the icons in the bottom right, which represents your health and shields. The red is your health, the green is your shields. Beware melee attacks in this game. They bypass your shields, which makes sense. The first few levels, the sneaky ninja melee characters almost killed me. The new icon to the right shows your weapon's ammo. Wave patterns represent how much force power you have. Once all the waves are gone, you can't use the force until it recharges. And lastly, the green bar at the top represents the battery life for accessories like your flashlight and any other items you might pick up. But probably won't need anymore because you're a freaking Jedi. I'm not trying to fit this into the review, but here are some of my thoughts that I had on the game while playing it. Something I'm sure you'll find valuable is don't get wedged and tillies between stuff. You'll lose health. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't matter in games. This one will kill you if you stand underneath a turbolift. Also, I'm not gifted with finding Easter eggs in games, but this was a pretty cool one. I found Max from Sam and Max on level 5. I also found out if you interact with him, your camera changes for some reason. And if you shoot him, he melts your face faster than bosses in this game. Another potential Easter egg I found was if you fail the jump at level 9, they added faces on the platform just to mock you. Thanks, guys. I always appreciate seeing developers have fun making their games. Also, I got stumped at a few points in the game. If you don't want these 2 hints, go ahead and look away from the screen. I'll let you know when to look back.
I'm Atratzu. I find the hard way to get somewhere via jumping puzzle parkour.
On level 5, I took to trying to do this crazy jump, which never worked. All you're supposed to do is go through this building and jump up on this ledge and go around the top of the roofs. Yeah. Dumb. But I was stuck there for a while trying to parkour my way through. Oh yeah, I also couldn't find this stupid switch on level 10. The random switch that was camouflaged into the wall.
I should have known.
This happened a few more times later on, but this switch had me so stumped I had to look up a playthrough to actually find the switch. I probably spent about 3 hours working on this one. Alright, you can look back now. Potential spoilers, but not really spoilers, are gone now. Something to keep in mind when you see someone reviewing older games is that these games were definitely designed for square resolutions. So many times they'll look bloated and stretched. Even on this YouTube video, I can only really record what I'm seeing, not how it was. However, graphics aside, I feel like this game has aged pretty well. Other than the key bindings, which make no sense, the game appearance and aesthetics are really good. They feel how you would think Star Wars Dark Forces 1 would look if you fast forwarded a few years and having a better computer. I don't know how to stick this into my review, but I noticed that once Kyle gets a lightsaber, he can use it underwater. That's complete BS. There are only a few lightsabers that work underwater. Kit Fisto has one, and I don't know any others designed for that. I guess the designers of the game were taking liberty for game mechanics, but I'm calling you out, LucasArts. That's BS. I feel that it's also important to point out that there is a multiplayer feature in Dark Forces 2. However, I didn't play it. I think it might still be possible to set up the port forwarding, and there might still be some communities which actively plays multiplayer. Also, as is the theme with older games, if you're looking to purchase, I would suggest you try out GOG before Steam. All the footage you see in this video was taken from Steam, so I can testify it works on my Windows 10 machine, but many people sing the praises of how GOG is better at handling older games. I can't say one way or another because I don't know for certain, but just be aware that most people recommend you get the game on GOG rather than Steam. Naturally, the best option would be to pick up a box in an old computer and play the game in its pristine condition on the system it was designed for. But I still had fun regardless of the metrics used.
In conclusion, Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 is a really long title that should just be called Star Wars Dark Forces 2.
I think this is pretty much what a sequel game should do. Take aspects of the first game, give you more of what you liked from the first game, and then expand it into something new and different. If I had to choose which game I liked more, Dark Forces 1 has that wonderful classical DOS soundtrack, but Dark Forces 2 has these adorable cheesy cutscenes. I guess I ever so slightly lean to Dark Forces 1 because of its beautiful simplicity yet complex level design. I'd highly suggest checking out Dark Forces if you're into this older style of game. It's not for everyone, but hopefully even if you didn't find the game interesting, maybe some entertainment was brought. And maybe you even learned a thing or two. Regardless, thank you for watching. My name is Atratzu, and I approve this review.
I've returned, Master. I've completed my review of Dark Forces 2. Excellent. I will summon you when I have need of you next.